A very good morning, students. Myself, Dr. Raghusudha, Head and Assistant Professor, Department of Microbiology, Government City College, is here with a topic on fermented foods. In this topic, we are going to discuss about introduction and health benefits of these fermented foods. First, let's begin with the definition. Fermented foods are defined as foods or beverages produced through controlled microbial growth and conversion of food components through enzymatic action. Many foods have historically undergone fermentation, including meat, fish, dairy products, vegetables, soya beans, other legumes, cereals, and fruits. There are several variables in the fermentation process, including the microorganisms, the nutritional ingredients, and the environmental conditions, giving rise to thousands of different varieties of fermented foods. Historically, food fermentation was performed as a method of preservation as the generation of antimicrobial metabolites, example organic acids, ethanol, and bacteriocins, reducing the risk of contamination with pathogenic microorganisms. Fermentation is also used to enhance the organoleptic properties like taste and texture, with some foods such as olives being inedible without fermentation that removes bitter phenolic compounds. History. The history of use of fermented foods is as ancient as human history. 7,000 years ago, people drank wine in Babylon. 5,000 years ago in Egypt, and 4,000 years ago in Mexico, and 3,000 years ago in Sudan. Let's go through some key fermentation products which have been produced well dated back. From 7000 BC, ancient Chinese civilization invents a beer type beverage called Q, made with rice, honey, and the fruits of grape and hawthorn plants. Around 4300 BC, recipe for beer is found on clay tablets from ancient Babylonian civilization. Interestingly, the majority of brewers were women and was a well respected profession that sanctioned divine protection by goddesses. During 3500 to 300 BC, Egyptians used yeast to leaven bread and brew beer, which were the most abundant components of their diet. The Egyptians also fermented dairy products producing cheese, yogurt, and butter. In 2000 BC, the first documented pickling of cucumbers occurred in the Middle East. 1500 BC, the ancient Babylonians developed the technology to preserve meat sausages. In 300 BC, the fermentation of vegetables became widespread in ancient China. In 200 BC, the fermentation of tea is said to have originated in China. The name kombucha came from Japan much late in 400 AD. 500 to 1000 AD, widespread development of cereal legumes fermentation processes. Example of end products are miso, dosa, and sake. Fermentation is the conversion of carbohydrates to alcohols and carbon dioxide or organic acids using yeast, bacteria under anaerobic conditions. Fermentation in simple terms is the chemical conversion of sugars into ethanol. The science of fermentation is known as zymology. In the production of fermented products, two main methods of fermentation are used. Firstly, the food can be fermented naturally, often referred to as wild ferments or spontaneous ferments, whereby the microorganisms are present naturally in the raw food or processing environment. Example, sauerkraut, kimchi, and certain fermented soya products. Secondly, foods can be fermented by the addition of started cultures known as culture dependent ferments. Example, kefir, kombucha, and natto. One method of performing a culture dependent ferment is back sloping, in which a small amount of previously fermented is added to the raw food, for example, sourdough bread or curdling of milk, etc. Starters used to initiate fermentation can be either natural, example black sloping, or selected commercial starters to standardize the organoleptic characteristics of the final product, which is usually done in production of cheese and yogurt. Let's see some of the microorganisms which are involved in fermentation of food. Bacteria like Lactococcus, Leuconostoc, Pediococcus, Propionibacterium, Brevibacterium, Bacillus, Micrococcus, and Staphylococcus. These organisms usually produce lactic acid from carbohydrates. Yeasts like Saccharomyces, Candida, Torulopsis, and Hansenula are used in production of fermented products. It is used in the production of vinegar, wine, and beer. Molds like Aspergillus, Penicillium, Rhizopus, Mucar, Monascus, Actinium are used for production of fermented products. Enzyme production and flavor enhancement are used. Usually molds are used for enzyme production and flavor enhancement. What are the advantages of these fermented products? They give a very good flavor, change the aroma, and change the texture of the food, help in preservation of the food, and it decrease in cooking time and fuel requirements. These are some of the fermented foods like kefir, then frozen yogurt, natto, sauerkraut, then kimchi, etc. Let's move on to the health benefits of these fermented foods. Fermented foods hold a firm place in cuisine from almost every culture in the world. In the West, there has been a surge in popularity of fermented foods in recent years, major reasons including the proposed health benefits of fermented foods and surging interest in gastrointestinal health. There are several mechanisms through which fermented foods may exert beneficial effects in health and disease. Firstly, they contain potentially probiotic microorganisms such as lactic acid bacteria. In general, most fermented products have been found to contain at least 10 to the power of 6 microbial cells per gram, with concentrations varying depending on several variables such as the product's region, age, and time at which the products are analyzed or consumed. The surrounding food matrix appears to play an important role in the survival of probiotic strains via its buffering and protective effect against gut conditions. Example, low pH, bile acids which are present in the gut. Indeed, a number of studies have shown that microorganisms from fermented foods can reach the gastrointestinal tract. This is likely to differ across products, and their presence in the gut appears to be transient. Nonetheless, these microorganisms may still have the potential to exert a physiologically benefit in the gut through competing with the pathogenic bacteria and the production of immune regulatory and neurogenic fermentation byproducts. Probiotic effect. Probiotics are friendly microbes of our gut. They play important functions in our gastrointestinal tract. The fact is 80% of your immune system is located in your digestive tract, making a healthy gut a major focal point if you want to achieve optimal health. The second major health benefit of fermented foods is they produce fermentation derived metabolites, which may exert health benefits. For example, lactic acid bacteria relevant to both dairy and non-dairy fermented foods generate bioactive peptides and polyamines with potential effects on cardiovascular, immune and metabolic health. The immunoactive effect. It increases the production of IgA immunoglobulins, which result in local immune response. Here we can see how the probiotic bacteria are stimulating the production of non-specific IgA immunoglobulins by the lumen or lumen of the digestive system. They help in stimulation of interferons, then interleukin 6, 10, etc., which finally help in production of IgA immunoglobulins. They also enhance the systematic immune response. The probiotics, they help in production of systematic immune response, which also eventually results in production of IgA immunoglobulins. Fermentation converts certain compounds into the biologically active metabolites. Thirdly, fermentation may convert certain compounds to biologically active metabolites. For example, lactic acid bacteria can convert phenolic components such as flavonoids to biologically active metabolites. Flavonoids help as antioxidants. They protect the cells, and while phenolics are harmful to the system. Fermentation can reduce toxins and anti-nutrients. For example, fermentation of soya beans may reduce phytic acid concentration, and sourdough fermentation can reduce the content of fermentable carbohydrates. Example, fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, polyols, FODMAPs, etc., which may increase the tolerance of these products in patients with functional bowel disorders such as irritable bowel syndrome. These beneficial microorganisms which are present in the fermented foods help in removal of anti-nutrients. What are anti-nutrients? These are chelating compounds called phytic acids of metal ions present in bran and seed of every crop. They make strong bond with proteins, calcium and other inorganic ions and make indigestible compounds. This deficiency causes cavity, bone loss and osteoporosis. Aspergillus oryza produce phytase enzyme which converts this phytic acid into inositol, a sugar and digestible component. Have phytic acid, but soya sauce is anti-nutrient free. Here in the reaction we can see how phytase enzyme is converting phytate or phytic acid into inositol. The fifth factor of these fermented foods as a health benefit is they increase nutritional quality. Lactic acid bacteria convert carbohydrates into easily digestible compounds by the production of enzymes. Like starch is converted into maltose in presence of enzyme amylase produced by these bacteria. Similarly, omega-3 present in salmon and other fermented foods also help in gene expression, signal transduction, inhibit the cell growth and differentiation. Omega-3 increases the cell apoptosis, that is removal of infected cells or useless cells from the system is known as apoptosis. Antibiotic production. These probiotics or fermented foods also help in production of antibiotics like fermentation. They give acidic environment. They lowers the pH of the digestive system. They are membrane potential, metabolic functions, reduce active transport, production of hydrogen peroxide, ethanol, and 2,3-butyrnidol have growth inhibiting role. Propionibacterium shermani is used to inhibit the growth of yeast and molds in cottage cheese. These fermented foods are also effectively used to digestive disorders like Streptococcus thermophilus, Bifidobacterium bifidum, and lactic acid bacteria are used with ORS to treat acute diarrhea and infection caused by rotavirus. High dosage of antibiotic kill the natural microbiota of the gastrointestinal tract. Clostridium difficile is part of it, but it produce mycotoxins which cause colitis. So, intake of lactobacillus GG, part of natural microbiota, show remarkable effect or reduce the effect of Clostridium difficile or colitis. Thus, these are the major health benefits which are given by all fermented foods. In this slide, let us see what are health benefits produced each type of food. Like kimchi. Kimchi has vitamin like thiamine or B1, riboflavin or B2, calcium, iron, and which acts as an anti-cancer food, also recognized by World Healthist Foods. Then sauerkraut has vitamin C, K and B, iron, potassium, copper, manganese. It is good for stomach and acts as an anti-cancer food. Coffee and coffee is also an anti-cancer, helps in treatment of diabetes type 2. Chocolates, they improve the circulatory system. They are rich in flavonoids and decrease cholesterol level also. Cheese prevent tooth decay. Tryptophan, which is present in the cheese, improves sleep and relieves tension. Yogurt is rich in protein, calcium, vitamin D, riboflavin, vitamin B6, B12. Yogurt prevents osteoporosis, reduces the risk of high blood pressure, decreases gastrointestinal infections. Kefir is used as detoxification, improves immune system, digestion, and it acts as an anti-allergen. It builds the bones density. Similarly, pickles reduce cancer. They produce antibiotics, then improve mental health and gene transfer. Vinegar is used for detoxification, help in weight loss, skin problems, lower blood pressure, cholesterol, and it eases arthritis too. So these are the health benefits which are produced, which are given by the fermented foods. Thank you.